What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the BB Bus, where I make videos for you about my life here in my self-converted short bus. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago I put out a video going over in depth my shower, and I promised that I would move on to my kitchen and put out a video about that. I did make a little satirical video, a short film about how we'll just say how the internet perceives my kitchen to be used. There's been a lot of feedback and a lot of I don't want to say criticism, you get the idea. There's been a lot of feedback based on my choice for my kitchen layout, and in this video we're going to talk about why I made the choices that I did and how it's working out for me now after the fact and having made those choices already. Without further ado, let's get into my kitchen here in my short bus. Thanks for watching. Since we've already covered the shower in this detailed kind of tour, we're going to pick up right there and then move through the kitchen in that direction. First, we're going to start right up here up top. I have two overhead cabinets up here. There's a ton of storage. Even though there's a curved interior space, there's really a lot of stuff that I can fit in there, which has been fantastic. I usually organize it with like my toiletries and like bathroom related items on this end right here above the sink, because that's easy to use and that's where I need them. And then I have some cleaning supplies, paper towel, a couple other cleaning items. Then I have all my coffee things, grinder, AeroPress, coffee bags, filters, other sources of coffee behind that. And then on this end I get into some dry goods storage. This is some of the food that I use and eat more often. Some of my other food storage areas are a little bit harder to access. That's why I keep my go-to things right up here. Yeah, that's it for my overhead storage. They're basic cabinet doors with handles, hinges, soft close hinges, and then some struts to keep them open. That way I don't have to use my head to keep them up like that. Some magnets to keep them closed as well. So pretty straightforward and pretty easy as far as that's concerned. Now back to the edge of the shower. Like I mentioned in the shower video, this wall is not just a sheet of plywood. It is an actual wall with dimensional lumber inside, giving me enough airspace to, one, run my plumbing for my shower inside the wall, but two, also run electrical inside the wall. That way I can have this switch down here, which controls my bathroom light as well as my kitchen under cabinet lights, just like that. So that's been fantastic to have this here. Is the perfect location for this dual purpose switch. And honestly, usually I don't have the big overhead lights on. I just have my under cabinet lights on here and my under shelf lights on that side. And that works light wise plenty good for me. Having under cabinet lights is just fantastic, because that way when I'm working here in the kitchen, I'm not casting shadows on my workspace, or, you know, it just rounds the build out and makes it feel really much more like a home. So from this wall and this light switch, again, like I mentioned in the shower video, this whole wall is the same Duma wall tiles that I did in the shower. That way I have one big visual design element that is continuous, not breaking up a design element in the shower, design element out here. I only have a tiny bit of space, so keeping things consistent and looking clean throughout, it was one of my goals with the design aspects in this space. So that Duma wall tile comes all the way through the kitchen, covers the whole backsplash all the way up. Really easy to clean, really easy to install, and so far has held up really well with all the driving that I've done. So from there I have right away my sink, and I've been really excited with the use of the sink. I got a normal bar sink is what they're called. Kitchen sink is really big, but a bar sink is usually a little bit smaller but still has enough depth to be usable. So I think it's like a 14 by 14 or 15 by 15 and 13 inches deep. But then since I installed it on the underside of my counter, I get an extra 1.25 inches from the depth of my counter as functional kind of just storage space in the sink or usable space. The one drawback from my sink and this whole area over here is that in order for me to reach all the way down into the bottom of the sink, like if I really want to get way down in there, this zone is a merger for my head. I've gone knocked myself out a couple times about on this handle right above the sink, and I didn't realize until it was all the way finished and I was using it that I was like, you really don't ever see overhead cabinetry above a sink in a house. And it dawned on me in that moment. I was like, oh, I didn't think of that. So that's one of the things that, you know, would I do differently? Maybe. You lose a lot of storage space if you take this out. You can move it back so it doesn't come out as far. You lose a lot of storage space that way too. So, you know, there's pros and cons, ups and downs to that design choice. I've learned to work around it, and it hasn't been a big deal since I've figured that out. Another reason why I decided to undermount the sink in this situation is that I could then use the cutout from my butcher block countertop as a filler for this. And that, one, gives me a cutting board, two, gives me a place to store my cutting board and I don't have to put that somewhere else, and three, when this is in this position, I get a lot of real estate back on my countertop. A lot of surface area is added by putting this back in there. And it's as easy as, you know, lifting a corner, sliding it out. And now I got my sink and I got my cutting board. I can toss this over there on the table if I don't want it anywhere out here. But it's a very, you know, very functional decision as far as the design and use for the sink area. And I've been very happy with the use of that. When it comes to this faucet, I get a lot of questions about this faucet. I had never seen anything like it before, personally. I found it when I was scrolling through Amazon and trying to find something that I felt drawn to. And a couple reasons why I chose something like this. One, it does look like a household faucet. As I've said countless times with this build, I wanted to design this to feel like a home and a house rather than living in a car. Right? So something like this was going to go a long ways rather than a little tin like flip up or like a foot pump thing that, you know, you feel like you're in an RV or a car conversion if you're using something like that. So chose something like this that could really feel like it's in a house. I mean, the amount of utility you get out of something as flexible as this, I've slung this out the window and done showers outside using this. So dual purpose all around. Even just for this top spring-loaded piece, you could slide it out of the area and then it's gone. This faucet is this one I could do away with. I don't really need this one, but that's not how this faucet came. So it came with it and that's fine. I can open it up here and it's just a constant pour. This one, on the other hand, in order for water to come out, you have to squeeze the trigger. So that's how that works. When I'm really just doing dishes and washing and I want something pouring constantly, then I have to use this one. That can also move out of the way. But here's the biggest reason why I chose this faucet in particular is because in the same stack of all these outlets, it had a filtered water outlet without having to drill a separate hole for a filtered water spigot anywhere else in my counter. And that's what I really, really liked about this faucet. I could drill one hole, keep my counter surface as clean as possible, and have an adjustable hand sprayer, a constant pour, as well as a filtered water outlet. And that's controlled by the faucet here on this side. The other two are on this one, but then the filtered water is on this side. And I do have a little water filter down below my countertop, and that's, you know, partly for peace of mind because I cannot guarantee that every time I fill my water tank, it will be with filtered potable water. If I'm getting stuff from a little mountain stream or, you know, this or that, or this hose in someone's backyard, you never really know. And yeah, I get it. If I put a bad water source in, I may get something bad. I may drink some bad water, even if I filter it, right? But having a filter, it's partly peace of mind. It will do a number on slightly water, and, you know, I prefer to use it. So that's what this one is, and that has been a total game changer in here, and I really, really, really love having a filtered water spigot that I can drink right out of. So that's the faucet, and now let's continue on down the counter. Next stop after the sink is this little fruit hammock. Yeah, it's a total van life thirst trap, I'll admit to that, but it's really cute. And I made it myself with my girlfriend's help. We together, it was a little project that we took on, a little craftsy kind of thing we did together, and it was, one, super fun to make, two, fun to learn something new, and, you know, it's got a function. It hangs there and it stores my fruit, and it, you know, pretty good looking little thing. So I use that from time to time. Most of the times there's a little something in there. I did go driving once and there was an avocado in there and the avocado was ripe. I tried to hang it in a way that it would not really hit the wall too badly if it was moving around, but that time when I was driving it, I was driving. I was like F1 style, like, and the avocado didn't make it. My wall didn't make it either. It had avocado all over it. But it was fine. That's just once. It happens. You get over it. And, you know, next time I drive like that, I'll just unhook it and stick it in the sink or something so I'm not swinging it around like a big knob carry and busting stuff up. But that's my little fruit hammock. Cycle stuff out of there. It's easy to use, easy to grab stuff out of. And, you know, that's been pretty fun. Next, I left this out on the counter because that's the reality. I leave this out on the counter all the time. I don't put this away unless I'm driving, of course. But this is a part of a coffee making setup by Packed Bags, and this has been an incredible part of my bus life routine in here. It's, you know, as basic of a water cooker as you can get, but it's just small and it's only 600 watts. So I can power this no problem. It doesn't make a dent in my battery. And it takes about 45 seconds to heat up 300 mils of water. Yes, it only heats up 300 mils at a time. So if you're making ramen for 6 people, it's not going to do it, right? But all I need for my coffee in the morning is that. If I'm making tea, if I'm making ramen for myself, it's great to not have to fire my propane stove, and I can just whip up some hot water really fast in this little sucker. So this has been total game changer. I have the other parts of the coffee making setup and I just keep those stored away. I don't really use that a lot, but this has been amazing. So I just keep that plugged in all the time. Anytime I turn on my inverter, throw this sucker on, hot water like that. And the last counter level area before the stove out at this end by the bed is my main light switch. This controls the 2 big beams going right down the center of the bus. That is one area where I would have, if I were to do this same build again, I would rethink things a little bit, right? And let me explain. I do have a little bedside lamp here. However, the switch for that is way in the corner over there. It's hidden by the mattress. So when you're in bed, it's not hard to reach. But say I'm getting ready for bed. I'm out here doing my thing. It's dark, right? These lights are so bright. Usually in the nighttime, I don't have these on at all because they're just too bright, all right? I'm not complaining or anything, but they put out a lot of light. So I just prefer to like dim it down, set the mood. I use my kitchen lights and my other lights, and that's perfect. That's plenty, right? But then when I'm getting ready for bed, I got to turn off my lights way up there, and then those are off. I turn off my kitchen lights way over here, then those are off, and then it's either dark in here or I have my main lights on and it's crazy bright. You can't reach the bedside light from standing out here, so you got to, you know, dive on the bed to reach it, and then you have that light on and you can turn off the rest of your lights, or you have your big lights on and it's just crazy bright. So I would maybe consider putting maybe a switch here to control my light. I may actually do that coming up soon. You'll see what happens with that. Switch here to control my bedside light, or put a bedside light switch down here so that I can control that a little bit easier. That way I don't have to have my big lights on in the evening, because it's just too much. Now let's talk about the area of contention within my kitchen. And that has been my stove and my placement of my stove. The biggest piece of feedback that I've gotten from my build in general has been, your stove is so close to your bed, either that's dangerous and you're going to catch things on fire, or how do you not get food all over your bed? And albeit those concerns are warranted, because if you take this as a, let me look at that from the perspective of a normal home or a house, that would be madness to put your stove right next to your bed. Like, think of that for a second in your brain. Like, picture that. You walk into someone's bedroom and there's like a normal household stove, like as their bed stand right next to it. You'd be like, what is going on? You're crazy, right? That's exactly what you would think. So like, if your perspective is of that of a home, I totally get it, because I would think the same thing. However, me having been in here and used this setup, I can tell you that I wouldn't change this in a second. And here's why. One, no, I don't get food on my bed. You'd have to be cooking like crazy, like some wild dance party kind of cooking to really make that kind of a mess, or indeed be like splashing stuff. Like if you're concerned about safety or fire, it would take a supreme level of negligence to catch your bed on fire. This does have 3 burners, so there's one central here, there's one off in that corner, and there's one in this corner. I haven't used the one in this corner ever, right? It's too small to really fit 3 big pans on there, so that's not something that I do. So it's either this one in the front and center for some active cooking, or if I'm just boiling a little pot for pasta, it's the one in the far corner. So it's literally like at least, 20, 22 inches between any fabrics and the flame. So you'd have to be very negligent to cause a safety hazard in this use case scenario, which I'm confident that that's not going to be something that I'm going to run into. So to quell any concerns, may your concerns be quelled. That's all I gotta say. It's been working fantastic for me, and here's the reason why I wouldn't change it, right? I just defended myself, but I don't really need to defend myself because I'm confident with my layout. After having used this kitchen for months now, I find myself cleaning up splooshy, wet sink messes every day, all the time. Partly because that sprayer has got some power behind it, partly because you take a wet dish out and then you dribble along the counter as you carry it to your drying rag or your drying setup or something like that. And, oh man, if my sink was here, I'd get a swampy pillow every day. Now we get to the bottom half of the kitchen, and this is where the guts and the glory lie. Here in this corner, I've covered these in other videos before and on Instagram as well, but these buttons control a couple important features within my kitchen. This far one here opens up a solenoid that is on my propane tank, and when this button is not pushed, pressurized propane is not being delivered into the cabin of the bus, which partly is just a peace of mind, partly a safety thing. If there was a leak, propane's not getting pushed into the air that I'm breathing and living in. Push that, it lights up, propane opens up. Now I have pressurized propane for my stove as well as my water heater. If you heard a little fan come on, that is because I cut a vent underneath the kitchen way back in there, and I put a little CPU fan that is also powered by this button. So if I'm delivering propane into the bus, it's because I'm either using my stove or using my water heater, both of which generate some heat, and the water heater definitely generates some water vapor. The burning of propane, if you look at the chemical equation, you get a lot of water vapor coming out after burning propane, and I didn't want to be collecting that behind my drawers because my water heater lives behind here. So I set up a little fan as well as some tubing to kind of suck the air right out of my water heater and direct it right outside. So if I'm showering or using hot water, that water vapor is getting taken outside by that CPU fan. If I close this button again, you'll hear that fan goes off. So then I'm not ventilating out to the outside unless I'm using my propane accessories. The next button here is my water pump, so if I hit that, you'll hear the water pump go on and start sucking some stuff up and pressurizing my lines. As long as I'm parked here with a hose and city water, I don't use that at all. But when I'm camping, I also try not to keep my water pump on all the time, because then I am actively pressurizing my water lines, which if there was a leak, it would just leak. This way, if there's a leak, it's only going to leak and be a problem if I'm actually actively running my pump. So a couple safety measures, just a little bit more control, a little bit more habit, and a little bit more intentional design. So that's what those buttons do. Anyways, underneath those buttons is my vertical pantry pullout. Got a bunch of dry goods down here, some oil, balsamic, salt, pepper, soy sauce, other goods up there. This thing has been super great to use. It's on soft close slides. I've been pretty happy with that. It's a pretty functional use of space. You know, it's a really skinny slot, but vertical pull out, perfect for keeping a lot of things in there, but also utilizing the space that I have. Moving on, this next stack is the stack that's underneath my sink. This is something that you don't see in a lot of American homes. Maybe it's in your house, maybe not, but I've seen this a lot more in Europe. But you have these little pullouts that takes advantage of a tiny little bit of space right underneath the sink. So if I pull this out, you'll see that's where I keep my toothbrush, toothpaste, floss, and my dish scrubbing brushes. That way, I mean, I'm just using every square foot of storage that I can find. You know, that's how you got to approach these kind of builds, is utilizing the storage as best you can. So that's what this little cabinet does. And then underneath here is a normal cabinet door. And then in here I have my trash can, my cleaning supplies, surplus toiletries are in the back, my dish drying rack is over here, and my dish drying pad is here. The whole thing that comes out on slides. And I have a couple of other little storage boxes in the back underneath there. You'll see my broom is also here. And then if we look in there, there's my water filter, and then my braided hoses for my water hookups. I do not have a P-trap under here, a traditional P-trap, because I used a HEPVO valve, which is effectively a P-trap, but without taking up as much geographical space. That lets me have this trash can and all this other stuff that's stored under there without excess plumbing hanging down in here, taking up too much space. So that's what it looks like underneath the sink. That's what the draining situation is like in there, and that's what I keep stored in there. And onto my central stack here. We're filming it this way, that way I can show you exactly what's going on in here. These are also all on soft close slides, and that is actually what helps keep them closed when I drive. There is a little bit of power and inertia that you've got to put into these drawers to get them open, and just that much spring pressure is usually good enough to keep them closed while I'm driving. But up here I have all my silverware and a divider, and then my cooking utensils over here, easy to access. Under there I have my spice drawer. Clearly I don't have all my jars filled with spices, but there's potential there. A couple more measuring. Why do I have two sets of measuring cups? What am I doing? Who wants measuring cups? A little tea set, my microplane. Gotta get that good Parmesan cheese grated. Under there is where I keep my dishes, as well as a couple more dry goods. I got some orecchiette and some fusilli. Some good pastas. Bronze die extruded, the best. And then keep my mugs, my cups. Why is my lime juice in there? What is going on? Cups, plates, bowls, mugs, thermoses, that kind of stuff. And then under here, this one gets a little sticky sometimes. Under here is where I keep my dry food, my excess dry foods. I open this maybe once a week max, because there's things in here that I don't always cook with, I don't always use. It's like surplus storage. That's what that drawer is. Oh, wow. That's really stuck. I need to take that apart and check that out. I haven't opened that in a while. Clearly. And now to the stack underneath the oven. This is my Nordifact antibacterial dish towel. I've been very excited to be using these for the last couple weeks. I've been stoked with those. You should check them out. I'll put a link in the description below. But Nordifact makes bath towels as well as dish towels that are treated with a silver biocide that is designed to limit the growth of odor-causing bacteria. So they stay fresher longer and don't need to be washed as often, which, living in a bus, it's exactly what I want. Anyways, here I have my oven, little baking sheet that I keep in there, baguette baking sheet that I also keep in there. This is the Furion brand. You can find these pretty easily. You can also get cheaper versions, but you know, do your research, figure out what you want. Underneath here is my biggest drawer in the house, and that has pots, pans, as well as mixing bowls. I have a huge pot that I use rarely. I have a little pot that I use all the time. I use my always pan, always. And then I have a little 9-inch missing pan that I hide in there as well. Between the two of these pans, best non-stick I've ever cooked with. We'll see how they hold up over long periods of time, but fantastic pans right there. And then I keep my knife roll here. You ask, knife roll, what the? I like to protect my knives. I have some nice cooking knives, and let me tell you, I have cooked with dull knives before, and I've cooked with very sharp knives before. And using sharp knives in a kitchen, oh. If I could make one recommendation to upgrade anyone's kitchen, it would be to just get one nice sharp knife. So I keep my knife roll in here, that way my knives don't get jimble-jambled with other things and get dull or damaged. They last a lot longer in something like this where they can be protected. And then underneath that is my short little stubby drawer, and I keep extra towels and then my reusable Ziploc bags, as well as my Tupperware if I do any meal prep or make a big pot of soup and keep a couple extra servings. Then I use my Tupperwares in there. This drawer is so shallow because the wheel well is back here, so it's only really a 9-inch drawer, because then I run into the wheel well, so that's why it's so tiny like that. And once we get over to this final edge of the kitchen, we have 2 more buttons. This one is my fridge lock. You'll say, what the fridge lock? Well, let me tell you, this is my favorite button in the whole bus. Brief story time. Context on my fridge lock. When I took my first big trip in the bus, there were 4 of us. We had another car. Not everybody was in here. Don't worry. Whew. There were 4 of us, and we went down to Southern California. And I was like, I'm not going to put anything on my fridge right now because I'll just drive in a way that keeps it safe and doesn't go flying out. Well, those of you that drive cars know that you can't drive for your fridge. You got to drive for the road. And a semi pulled out of a rest stop, and I could not merge left, and I slammed on them brakes. And this fridge drawer, it went and it yeeted itself all the way up to me up there by the driver, and I was like, no! Completely busted the slides it's on. Ball bearings were sliding around and rolling all over my floor, and I felt real dumb. But we made it through the trip. It wasn't a big deal. We just kind of had to muscle the fridge in and out, and you know, it was only for like 6 days. But upon return, I still did not want to put like a little bathroom latch style little plunger lock in there. So I did my research, and I figured out that I could install a powered lock on my fridge drawer that hides in my garage and is run by a button. So I'll show you how it works. On this side of the fridge drawer, there's like essentially a metal deadbolt, like the kind they use in apartment buildings. Like you got to scan your little key fob, and then it goes bloop, and then you can open the door. It's that kind of lock that's in there. So there's a deadbolt that is normally extended, right? No current passing through the lock, deadbolt extended, right? So right now, that drawer is not going to open no matter how hard I step on the brakes, right? Oh, push that, deadbolt goes, you probably heard it, and then now we're in business. That's also on soft close slides too, so you can just whoosh, slam that shut and it goes poof, nice and easy, you know, and then you undo that and then you're locked again. So when I'm cooking, like if I'm cooking a meal and I'm in and out of my fridge all the time, I'll just leave that on, and I'll leave that lock open so that, you know, I can just get in there as quickly as I need to. But then, yeah, done cooking, lock that up, going driving, lock it up, and it performs pretty well. Right now I have this one hooked up to a solenoid on my gray water tank. However, that solenoid leaks, so I really don't use this button for now. I may reassign it because in reality, to drain your gray, you're going to have a little bit of chunkies going through there, and I don't want stuff to clog up a solenoid that then can't close, and then I'm just always leaking. So that's one that I'm still in the process of figuring out. Under there, you'll see my cheap Chinese diesel heater thermostat interface. So that powers the heater, which the vent comes out here. Haven't used that in months because it's hot as balls here. It's hot here. That's what that meant. And then under there, I have my least finished area of the bus. There is no organization or shelving in here. This is where I keep ultra surplus oats and grains and, you know, bulk stuff that's too big to fit anywhere else. and my fire extinguisher is right there as well. So I really rarely get in there. I mean, because it's in this weird spot, it's a little bit hard to get to, but things that I need are in there. I think I've covered everything in the kitchen. I didn't talk about like building drawer boxes or installing slides and some of that kind of stuff, or how I built the cabinet. You don't need to hear that. You don't want to hear that. This is like assessment of design and ergonomics and ease of use, not how to build a kitchen. That's for another time next year. There's a little what do they call that in movies? What do they call that? Foreshadowing? Anyways, we've covered most of what's in the kitchen. What is it, like 5.5 feet, 6 feet of space? But I'm able to fit pretty much like a fully functional kitchen in here. Yeah, I don't have a microwave, but whatever. I don't have a toaster. I toast stuff in my oven. It actually works super well. Turn on the oven, propane coming from underneath, you just slide your bread right on the grill. You actually get like little grill marks on your bread, and you flip it over, you do the other side. It works pretty well. Oh, speaking of propane, here's something that I felt like I should share. If there's something that you saw in this video that you're like confused about or curious about that I didn't address, or that you maybe want some more information on, don't hesitate to like drop a question in the comments. I'll answer all the questions that I get, and try to provide some insight for you guys. If you are not already following me on my other social platforms, I would please encourage you to go over to Instagram and TikTok and follow BBABus on those platforms as well. I don't get compensated for these videos. I'm not making any money. I'm doing this for you, your education, your entertainment. I guess to build an archive for myself for future reference. But no, I'm doing this on my free time whenever I can. So go ahead and give me a follow, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. If you found anything interesting in this video, that helps me a lot, and that helps me grow and reach more people and more individuals like you that are looking to learn some more about this lifestyle and how they can do this themselves. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hanging in there and getting to the end of this video. I know that was a lot of information, kind of like crammed into one. Not all of it was quantitative, but hopefully there was some quality info and some real use case scenarios that you can reference and take out of it, and maybe it'll inform your build. Maybe it'll inform your house kitchen. How are the ergonomics in your space? That's enough of that. Enjoy your evening. Have a good day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here in the BBABus for another video. Thanks again.